Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink CYDVF, and on Frankfurt C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
And thanks for having me back, Jim.
According to the Royal Bank of Canada, Canadians are at their highest level of wanting to buy a home in 8 years. Is that really true?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell your listeners, anything that comes out of RBC Economics or RBC surveys, their Ipsos read surveys that they solicit, the same as any other bank, is just a bunch of hogwash. It is hilarious when you sit there and read it. Looking at the data about the housing market that we have at our disposal. Do I believe that more people want to buy a home today that wanted to buy one 8 years ago? No, that's absolute nonsense. The exact same people who wanted to buy a home 8 years ago want to buy one today. It's the same that it always has been. The home ownership rate in Canada has not declined enough to justify claiming 8 years later that now all of a sudden there's a pent-up demand. What you're hearing in that report, Jim, is you're hearing the common call from the banks. The moment that the housing market starts to slow down, the moment that the bank profit starts to fall, which we have warned about on your show months and months and months before, that the banks would take this approach. They have done this for the last 30 years. This is their technique. The housing market is stalling, so they come out with reports that say, wow, a lot more people want to buy. Then the real estate association jumps in. Wow, a lot more people want to buy. Then the governments believe all of this nonsense because the governments are incompetent. I mean, you have people in these positions with government who were working at a regular job one day, and they're the head of the housing department for Canada in the next. They're overseeing CMHC. Like, it is bizarre that this is what goes on. It's a foolish survey. It makes no sense. The demand for home ownership is now and forever will be, unless there's something happens that changes to our society, all consuming for families. Households. Everybody really wants to own a house. There are such a small percentage of the population who wants the flexibility of being able to move from rental to rental to rental each and every year as a lifestyle choice that it's negligible. If you sit down with people and you say, if you could own a home for the same price you could rent one, would you prefer to own? Everybody answers yes. They're not stupid. It only makes good financial sense. And your listeners need to not listen to the banks, surveys, realtors. You need to step aside and listen to decades and decades of housing research that has gone into home ownership. The study of home ownership. The study of home ownership tells you that everybody wants to own a home. They want to own a home for many, 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 many reasons. And the most important reason, from my perspective, is you want to own a home because that is how you're going to accumulate the most wealth in your lifetime. So this survey, Jim, is hogwash.
Ross, what are some other concerns that you have in real estate right now? You said you were holding back some important information about foreign buyers and Canadian homes. What do you have on that front?
Okay, so we've been quiet about this now, Jim, for coming up on a year. This is, we're into April now. So I guess it's a full year. And we have been quiet because we don't want our warnings or our commentary to fuel any type of a negative consequence across the country. After we go through this pending correction, this pending housing bubble breaking and things taking as long as they're going to take for things to get out, going forward at the start of the next cycle, it's going to be far easier for us to come out publicly and explain things to people because we're not going to be blamed for it. This is a case in point. Last year in March, the Canadian Real Estate Association undertook an initiative to begin marketing Canadian homes to Chinese buyers. That initiative has not been mentioned in mainstream media by any real estate trade association, by any real estate board, or by any realtor blogger, people who pretend they know how the housing market works, in Canada up until this moment in time. What I'm going to tell your listeners is this. In March of 2017, the Canadian Real Estate Association created a new marketing methodology to attract foreign investors to purchase the homes listed by realtors in Canada. Their sole purpose for doing this was to get the highest price possible for Canadian homes and the highest commission earnings possible for Canadian realtors. There was no other reason behind this initiative. Now, your listeners only need to do the following. They need to type into their browser the subdomain China.realtor.ca. China.realtor.ca. And your listeners are going to be the first people in Canada to find out what I'm saying is true. Lo and behold, the Canadian Real Estate Association set up a brand new foreign investor platform to go after Chinese buyers. They chose the Chinese population first, and they did that in March of 2017. After the fact, they have continued with USA, India, and the UK, creating individual subdomains on realtor.ca for those purposes. Now, I'm not going to get into those other issues. I'm going to stay targeted on what the Canadian Real Estate Association did to the people in Vancouver and the silence by the the British Columbia Real Estate Association, the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, and every single realtor in the province of British Columbia has done. The consequence of their marketing efforts was so overwhelming that within 2 months of this initiative starting up, the average selling price in Vancouver began to rise again. It is not a coincidence, listeners, that this initiative was all-consuming. When your listeners go to China.realtor.ca, they're going to find that the brain thrust at the Canadian Real Estate Association, in conjunction with the British Columbia Real Estate Association and the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, came up with the idea of bending Chinese social media links into this portion of on the subdomain. They have linked both Weibo and WeChat to the Canadian foreign investor site on realtor.ca. Now, so your listeners understand, they use the word foreign investor on their website. Now, I'm going to encourage your listeners to go there after this, they've listened to this show, and check it out. because I think there is going to be such a massive backlash. Korea is going to try to pull this down before anybody else sees it. Now, of course, we've grabbed screen captures of all of this. Now, the reason we know this is because we track everything that the Canadian Real Estate Association does in order to understand real estate data and in order to be able to interpret what's going on in the market. So, in April of 2017, when we, Rothschild Realty Consultants, recorded average selling prices starting to move upwards in Vancouver for the first time in 7 months, we knew that there was a problem because there was not enough mortgage debt being accrued in Vancouver by Canadians to have housing prices rise again. That meant there was only one other cause available: capital coming from outside of Canada into Canada, which directly coincided with this March launch of China.realtor.ca. Your listeners need to understand the Canadian Real Estate Association, the British Columbia Real Estate Association, the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver did not tell a single politician in the province of British Columbia that this was going on. It is now a full year. We waited a full year before we came out about our knowledge of this initiative. The reason we didn't come out about it in April and May of 2017 was because we didn't know how effective it would be. We didn't know if our words were going to cause hysteria, and it could cause some people to go out and purchase a home right at the time they shouldn't be buying it. Because you still should not be buying them right now, folks. Our words of advice have not changed. Housing prices have dropped in British Columbia. You've just seen a new Think Poll survey come out of home sales, single detached home sales in the month of March. They correlated that against their assessment values. All of the properties sold for less than their 2018 assessment values, meaning it sold way, 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 way less than what they were selling for in 2016 when the market crested. That's where we came up with our 29% house price correction that we recorded in the fall of 2016. You're only hearing about it now a year and a half later. We had to track this initiative by the Canadian Real Estate Association to see if it was actually going to cause inflationary pressure on house prices in Vancouver. Because we can't rely upon your government data, because your government data is collected improperly, and it's not broken down in a manner that allows an accurate assessment of the market to take place. We have to rely on our own data. We have to interpret our own information. We had to interpret whether or not this Canadian Real Estate Association, British Columbia, Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver's initiative, and all the realtors' initiative, all of them, because none of them have come clean on this. Now, are they all stupid? Are they all incompetent? Are they all ignorant? Yes, that's highly possible. It's why you should never listen to any of them about housing information. But in British Columbia, right now, your housing prices have been inflated by the Canadian Real Estate Association's move to attract foreign buyers, to foreign investors to purchase Canadian homes. It is not debatable. Any of your listeners can go to the site right now. They can see the WeChat and the Weibo links. Nobody but the Canadian Real Estate Association can touch the realtor.ca domain. When you want to create a subdomain, only the owner of the domain can do that. So this was the Canadian Real Estate Association. We also have the documentation from the fella who created this strategy and his direct words to the members of the Canadian Real Estate Association. So there is no excuse for any realtor blogger, website owner, so-called housing analyst in Vancouver or British Columbia or the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver to escape this. They were provided information by the guy who wrote the site through the Canadian Real Estate Association on an insider website that clearly stated that this was the goal and this is what they were going to do. What I want your listeners to know is this. The Canadian Real Estate Association and the realtors have caused the average selling price in Vancouver to increase since April of 2017. The initiative to attract foreign buyers to the Vancouver market caused this to happen. The correlation, it is a causation. There is basically a 47-day delay between when this initiative was launched and the change to average selling prices took place. You should all be calling your provincial governments, the mayor of Vancouver, the councillors, David Eby, the premier, and you should ask them, it's been a year. How did you not know that this was going on? Why is it the first place we heard about it from Ross K. Realty Consultants on Howe Street? How did this happen? How have you allowed this to happen? How has the Canadian Real Estate Association been allowed to hoodwink the nation for decades? It makes no sense.
We'll have more with Ross K. right after the break.
Glance Technologies owns and operates Glance Pay, a disruptive mobile payment technology now live in 16 cities in Canada and about to launch in the US. With revenues up 664% in the last quarter, Glance Technologies has the potential to be a worldwide leader in an industry projected to grow to $1.3 trillion in 3 years. Glance Technologies stock symbols are GLNFF in the US and GET in Canada. Find out more at glancepay.com.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp Inc., MGI on the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected high-grade gold, including 16.9 meters of 13.58 grams and 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program is planned to further evaluate previously identified subsurface high-grade gold mineralization. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross K. Ross, would one way around BC's 20% foreign buyer tax that's going to hit all the major real estate markets, could not foreign investors just give their money to a Canadian surrogate and then they go and buy the property?
Well, they could do that. They could do that, Jim, but they're going to have to commit a fraud, and that means they're breaking the law. These policies and acts, legislation that are brought out, for someone to do that, they are circumventing the written act itself. So that means that they're breaking the law.
Well, Ross, what I understand though is they're saying it's a tax on foreign buyers, but there's no law that says where you have to get your mortgage from. So essentially, it's foreign mortgage money, but I'm investing it as a Canadian.
Now that's exactly right. So back in what were we, Jim? It's been 2 years almost, right, since the foreign buyer tax came out.
Right,
and
the
on
NDP,
that show,
yes,
we explained to people exactly that was a workaround for the foreign buyer tax back then. Now, again, your listeners should understand, David Eby may be a nice guy, but he has this information in his hands. He was provided this information. What you're bringing up today, Jim, to us is really like 2 years old, because we provided that warning to David Eby that what foreign investors really could be doing is they could set up a mortgage lending facility of some sort where a Chinese investor, I'm going to use Chinese for the sake, only because to stay on this China.realtor.ca focus. You can also go to USA.realtor.ca and UK.realtor.ca and India.realtor.ca. They've created all these new domains. Your listeners should also understand they don't have that for Remax or Royal LePage or Royal Pacific. They only did that for the Chinese and the Indian buyers. this mortgage situation, you set up a mortgage corporation as a foreign investor. There are no laws against that currently on the books in Canada. You lend money to someone who's purchasing a home in Vancouver. If that property forecloses, in other words, if the mortgage company has to foreclose on that property, all foreign buyers tax are waived. That was built into the act at the start to protect Canadian banks. It was not in there for any other reason but to protect Canadian banks for becoming liable for unpaid foreign buyer tax. That's why the policy was flawed, because it wasn't built to prevent someone from circumventing the intent of the policy legally. They thought, the banks complained, oh, we can't be responsible. We lent them the money. We can't be responsible for knowing whether or not they paid the foreign buyer tax. Well, my answer is quite simple. Of course you should know. You should have to get it. You should have to have some sort of a receipt signed that they, from their lawyer, verifying they paid the foreign buyer tax before you lend them money. Oh, no, but the banks don't want to do that. That could hurt our profits. This is the exact same thing in this situation. Because of that consequence, satisfying the needs, the greed of the Canadian banks, a foreign mortgage brokerage house, a foreign investor could invest foreign capital into Canadian homes in the form of a mortgage. The mortgage goes flop, gets foreclosed upon, as you're seeing with the casinos, the money laundering, the drug debt. And whoever's holding the mortgage then becomes the new owner of the home, and there is no foreign buyer tax payable. So that is a legal workaround because of a flawed policy by a group of people who do not understand how a housing market functions, how the home ownership infrastructure works, and what workarounds could be created to legally take advantages of the holes that they left in the policy. That's exactly what you're talking about here, Jim.
Well, if I thought of that just on the spur of the moment, I'm sure brighter brains than mine in the real estate business thought of it a long time ago.
You know something? It's some of the times, Jim, I want to say that how can people not know this stuff? You know, how can the CMHC not explain how housing prices rose in Vancouver and Toronto? How can a government corporation who oversees mortgage debt in this country since the inception of mortgage insurance, who was given an extra $500 million, not explain the simplest of facts, how housing prices rise? They have to come up with these crazy theories about demographics and supply and demand, and that's why we can't answer 23. Of the 40%, 23% we can't explain. You came up with a solution. Apparently, those working in government and for government corporations and Canadian banks and the Realtors Association of Canada, they have no idea what you just said.
Sorry, Ross. I mean, all I have is a certificate of high technology with distinction from the British Columbia Institute of Technology, so what do I know?
Oh, you know me. I love tech schools. There you go.
We'll have more with Ross K. right after this.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Ross Kay. Ross, when we've talked in the past about home buying and house prices, you always mention quality. Only the best quality homes sell, and so on. Can you explain what you mean when you talk about quality and why it's so important?
Okay, so quality is a metric, an indicator in the market that tells people, are they getting enough house for the dollars that they're spending right now? And quality is something that it's kind of complicated to try to explain here on air, Jim. But like people that are in our buying programs, we do a quality calculation for them as they're going on. So I'm going to explain this to your listeners because this market is what I'm going to talk to you right here. It's the easiest to explain because we've got some history here and we're far enough along into their correcting market that nobody's going to get damaged from my comments. If we look at Calgary, if you go to the Calgary Real Estate Board's website right now, or you go to the Canadian Real Estate Association benchmark price, you'll see basically that housing prices are unchanged in Calgary for the last 2 years. That's what they're going to tell you. And we know that is a crock of crap, to put it bluntly. We know that on a quality basis alone, people are paying 78 cents today that they would have had to have spent $1 for back in 2015 if they were buying a house. So you would have spent $1 back in 2015, but you're only spending 78 cents to purchase the same amount of house in February of 2018. We will also say that during that period of time, we've had 2016, 2017, and into 2018, we've had over 2 years of inflation. So the number that I just quoted at 78 cents on the 2015 dollar, you also have to understand that inflation has impacted that, driving that 78 cents down even further. So you're looking somewhere around 74 cents. So what that means is that for every dollar you're spending now, or for every 74 cents you're spending today, you're getting $1 worth of home versus had you bought it in 2015. That's what the quality differential means. The reason why housing bubbles form and the reason why housing prices generally don't drop while a market is correcting is because home buyers continue to pay the exact same amount of money. If you were going to spend $500,000 in 2015, you're still going to spend $500,000 if housing prices drop 15%. The difference is you're getting way more house for your $500,000. Instead of purchasing maybe a 3-bedroom house back in 2015 for $500,000, now maybe you're buying a 4-bedroom house for your $500,000. Maybe the lot is 5 feet wider. Maybe the house is 10 years newer. Maybe the house now has 9-foot ceilings versus the one you were going to have to buy in 2015 only had 8-foot ceilings. This is why you can't compare prices on homes using organized real estate associations or HPIs or benchmarks or anything else, because those metrics don't measure a consistent quality of home. Even the benchmark price released by the real estate boards, in the methodology, the benchmark price, they tell you that what they're doing is they're measuring the quality of a bathroom. So if the quality of the bathrooms being purchased 2 years later is better, that's automatically going to make the benchmark price rise, meaning it's never measuring the exact same house. Quality measures apples to apples, pears to pears, bananas to bananas, the same house to the same house. It eliminates house price illusion, which is what you see when you look at houses that are listed for sale by organized real estate on Realtor.ca, for the sake of the argument. When you look at those prices, you see the cumulative effect of house price illusion. You are not seeing a price that was generated through decades of a consistent quality of home being measured. This is why you get a housing bubble. This is why a housing bubble has to pop. This is why housing prices were falling in Vancouver for 7 months before the Canadian Real Estate Association launched China.realtor.ca for foreign investors. It takes a correction, Jim, to get rid of the crap. All of the illusion. We call it at our firm surplus. We've always called it surplus. There is what we call a sustainable price, and the sustainable price measures what a home buyer is able to pay. Then there is the surplus, and that is the amount of price that a group of buyers is artificially creating an illusionary effect through the house prices of the homes being purchased. All of your listeners have to do is go to that ThinkPoll website after you get off the air here and look at all the reductions in selling prices of all those houses that are on the website. Remember, they're using the 2018 assessment, not the 2016 assessment. You can see the 2017 assessments on the eValue website. You can no longer go back and get those 2016 assessments, which were even higher. All that being said, you can see where the quality is not measured in the benchmark prices created by the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, because they don't show a 22% year-over-year decline. The benchmark doesn't show that. Yet all of the houses they've got posted on that website sold for less than their assessed value. As a home buyer, you must know the quality score of the home that you're buying. I'm not saying don't buy it, but what I'm saying is if you don't have that quality score and you're going to spend $500,000 or $1 million or more, you're a fool. And I'm going to cross that boundary right now. You have been conned. You are a fool. Someone has taken advantage of you. You must demand the quality score. A quality score is a mathematical calculation on the value of a home and how it should be changing over time.
Ross,
it is the most important metric available if you're going to spend money. Certainly, if you're going to spend $500,000, $1 million or more. Certainly, if you're going to sign a mortgage that you're going to pay for 25 years in a rising interest rate environment, you need a quality score. Demand it.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca. You're listening to HoweStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at HoweStreet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or for Ross can be sent to info@HoweStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HoweStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at talkdigitalnetwork.com. HoweStreet.com Radio is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.